While Lords of the Fallen has a basis in Souls games, it also has plenty of unique mechanics that make it stand out, and ones that you'll want to quickly learn to master the game. With that, here are 11 things I wish I knew going into Lords of the Fallen. Let's start with the lore of the game. The first Lords of the Fallen game was released in 2014. While the new Lords of the Fallen has been called a reboot of the series by the game's development studio Hexworks' very own creative director, the new Lords of the Fallen, from a lore standpoint, is still a sequel, and it's set in the same world over 1,000 years later. Because of this, much of the wider lore of the world are drawn from the same backstory as the original game. There may even be some story elements that directly tie into the plot of the original Lords of the Fallen, so it might be worth brushing up with a plot recap if you're interested in learning more. Your Umbral lamp is your guide between Axiom and the Umbral world. Importantly, the Umbral world has a slightly different layout to Axiom, meaning that there are certain paths only available depending on the world you're in. However, when you're holding your lamp up, you can traverse as if you were in Umbral. This means that you can walk through a path that exists in Axiom, but not in the Umbral world, then hold up your lamp to traverse along Umbral paths, and even stop holding it up to remove that Umbral path and find secret routes. Notably, if you're attacked while on an Umbral platform and holding the lamp, you'll flinch and lower it, meaning you're probably falling to your doom. Anytime you die in Axiom, rather than dying, you'll respawn in the Umbral world. In fact, returning to Axiom is basically like getting a free extra life to play with. So feel free to explore the world of Axiom, jumping off of ledges or even risking drowning, because if you mess up, you'll transport to Umbral and have a chance to press ahead without losing precious vigor. In fact, sometimes you have to go into Umbral to progress, so just don't think about it. That said, be aware that when entering Umbral, you'll have half of your health, with the other half being withered health that you can gain back by attacking enemies while in Umbral. And you can only emerge from Umbral back to Axiom via emergence effigies you'll have to find or vestiges, which basically act as the game's Dark Souls-style bonfires. So while you're encouraged to explore the world and even take risks while in Axiom, it's a mechanic you won't be able to abuse. Early into the game, you'll meet Stomund, who sells an expensive and tempting Pilgrim's Perch key. You'll quickly find multiple doors that require the Pilgrim's Perch key, so is it worth saving up for and buying? Well, these areas it accesses are high-level areas, and it probably makes more sense to level up early on and come back to buy this later. On the other hand, you can get some good upgrade materials and loot if you want to suicide run through it. As you spend time in Umbral, your dread will build up, meaning inhabitants will be more and more aware that you're there, and you'll have more enemies spawning trying to kill you. While most of these enemies are easy and the increased number of them really isn't that bad, once your dread fills up completely, that all changes. The Dread Eye will turn red, and a red, ghostly Grim Reaper type figure will emerge, who will chase you and can quickly wipe the floor with you. As a caveat here, the more your dread increases, the more vigor you'll receive upon defeating enemies, from a simple 1.1 times multiplier, and then a 3 times multiplier if your dread does fully fill up. This one might be personal to me, especially since I was typically using heavier weapons in the game, but I noticed that attacks sometimes seem to take longer than I thought they would on the tail end, and I wouldn't have time to dodge react to enemies as my character was still in the middle of ending his attack animation. I've been playing Souls and Souls-like games for over 10 years at this point, and this felt particularly noticeable to me compared to those other games. So beware, and especially against bosses, make sure you're smart about how many attacks you take before going back into defense. You can rest, level up, and fast travel from ancient vestiges, which function very similarly to Dark Souls bonfires. These are the desiccated corpses of previous lamp bearers. Vestiges can be few and far between in the world of Lords of the Fallen, and that is where vestige seeds come in handy. You'll occasionally find umbral flower beds in the world, which act as spots you can plant these seeds that will become temporary vestiges. These seedling vestiges work just like a normal vestige. You can warp to and from them, level up, and you can, of course, rest at them, filling back up your Sanguinarix health charges. The major difference being, once you plant a vestige seedling, the previous vestige seedling will disappear with the new one replacing it. You'll occasionally find flower beds nearby major bosses, so these can really serve to drastically reduce your runback time when attempting a boss or even just a long area. However, vestige seeds are consumables, so don't go overboard with planting them as you'll quickly run out and possibly not be able to use them in more useful locations. Though you'll sometimes find some umbral beds of flowers in an arena after defeating a boss, you still might find an ancient vestige in the next room, so sometimes it's worth exploring a little before using up one of your precious seeds, if you're feeling brave enough. Vestige Seas can be purchased from Molu in the SKYREST bridge, and sometimes drop when you kill enemies or mini-bosses in the world. Speaking of SKYREST Bridge, there's lots of hidden secrets and items to find. It'll also give you an idea of the way levels are laid out throughout the game, with plenty of shortcuts and doors to unlock. Don't forget to look around while in Umbral too. There's even a puzzle to solve to help a trapped NPC, if you dare. If you can't lock onto them, they're friendly. There are loads of NPCs to talk to all throughout the world, and they can act as shopkeepers or dispensers of advice or warnings. Plenty have their own quests or goals within the world too, which might lead you to making tough decisions about who to side with. After you reach SKYREST, you can go pretty much anywhere, especially if you do choose to purchase that Pilgrim's Perch key. While some of these spots are going to be extra challenging at a low level, you have a level of freedom here that will definitely help make the game replayable and also allow you to choose an alternate path if one seems too difficult at the moment. Feel free to explore the Forsaken Fen, the Manse of Hallowed Brothers, or the Road of Penitence at your leisure. The game features its own variation on Dark Souls mimics, but we won't tell you what they are or how they try to trick you. Enjoy! Are you playing Lords of the Fallen? And if so, what are your thoughts so far? Let us know in the comments below.